My cousin Rachel stole the money I saved for my daughter's surgery. I wasn't sure at first. Something just felt off. But when I opened Instagram and saw her latest story, my stomach dropped. Rachel, sitting in first class, a glass of champagne in hand. Rachel, posing outside a designer store, arms full of shopping bags. Rachel, stretched out on a lounge chair at a 5-star resort in the Maldives, the caption reading, "New beginnings. Sometimes you just have to put yourself first." That was the exact moment I knew. I flipped to my banking app, my heart hammering against my ribs. The savings account, the one I had been building for 2 years, dollar by dollar for Emily's surgery, was empty. Gone. I checked the transaction history. Small withdrawals, spread over weeks, until nothing was left. My hands started to shake. I called Rachel. Voicemail. I texted her. No response. Another Instagram notification popped up. Rachel at an infinity pool, drink in hand. Living my best life. Yes, no regrets. I gritted my teeth. She wasn't even trying to hide it. She thought she could just steal my daughter's future and walk away. She was wrong. Emily is 10 years old. She's bright, kind, and full of life. But she's never had the chance to be like other kids. She was born with a heart condition that makes even walking across the playground exhausting. The doctors told me the surgery would change everything. She'd finally be able to run, to breathe freely, to have a childhood without limits. That was all I needed to hear. I started saving the very next day. 2 years of overtime shifts, working weekends, missing holidays. I did whatever it took. Every dollar went into that fund. $85,000. It wasn't some lottery jackpot. It wasn't luxury money. It was survival money. Emily and I would check the balance sometimes, turning it into a game. She'd grin, bouncing on her toes. "Dad, I'm going to join the soccer team after surgery," she'd say. I'd laugh, ruffling her hair, but inside, I was holding back tears. I wanted that future for her more than anything, and now, it was gone. I didn't know how to tell her. I didn't know how to look my daughter in the eye and say, "Your surgery isn't happening because someone you love chose handbags over your health." Rachel moved in with my mom 4 months ago after losing her job, again. She always had an excuse. Bad management, unfair layoffs, toxic work culture. But the truth, Rachel had never kept a job longer than a year. I didn't think much of it at first. She wasn't my problem. I was too busy working to make sure Emily's surgery happened, but looking back, I should have seen the warning signs. Rachel started hanging around my place more often. At first, she just brought small gifts for Emily. A candy bar, a little toy, seemed harmless. Then, she started asking questions. "So, when's the surgery again? How do you even pay for something like that? Must be crazy expensive. Do they take payments, or do you have to pay it all at once?" I thought she was just being supportive. Then she got bolder. "Where do you even keep that kind of money? Like a special account or something?" I should have realized. Rachel had access to my house. She used my Wi-Fi. Sometimes she even borrowed my laptop when she said her phone was acting up. She always claimed she was job hunting. I didn't question it. I didn't see what was coming. And then, the money was gone. I froze when I saw my account balance. 0. Not a mistake. Not a glitch. 0. My hands shook as I scrolled through the transaction history. Small withdrawals spread out over 2 weeks. At first, it was a few hundred here, a couple thousand there, slow enough that maybe I wouldn't notice. But now it was all gone. I grabbed my phone and called the bank. "I need to report unauthorized transactions," I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. The rep pulled up my account. "Sir, these transfers were made over a 2-week period from a device connected to your home Wi-Fi. They were authenticated with your credentials. My home Wi-Fi." My stomach dropped. Rachel had been using my Wi-Fi. She had been on my laptop. She knew exactly what she was doing. I didn't authorize anything, I snapped. That money was for my daughter's surgery. I understand, sir, the rep said. But if someone had access to your credentials, this may be considered a civil dispute, not fraud. A civil dispute? Like this was a disagreement over a borrowed sweater, not a stolen future. I hung up and dialed Rachel's number. Straight to voicemail, I texted. No response, then my phone buzzed. Rachel's Instagram story. She was sitting by an infinity pool, sunglasses on, drink in hand, living my best life. No regrets. I gritted my teeth. She thought she could just walk away from this. She was wrong. I drove straight to my mom's house, barely registering the speed limit, my hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Rachel had stolen from me. No, she had stolen from Emily. I barely knocked before shoving the door open, my voice booming through the house. Where's Rachel? My mom, startled, looked up from the kitchen table. She blinked, confused. Mark, what's wrong? I threw my phone onto the table, the bank statement glaring on the screen. She stole from me, Mom. $85,000. Emily's surgery money. It's gone. Her face went pale. No, that can't be right, she whispered. I checked. 5 times, I snapped. She transferred it out in small amounts. The bank confirmed it came from my home Wi-Fi. It was Rachel. My mom shook her head violently like she didn't want to believe it. I pulled up her latest Instagram post, the one of her lounging in the Maldives. She used my money for this. My mom stared at the screen, horrified. Then, finally, my phone buzzed. Text from Rachel. Mark, calm down. You're overreacting. It's not like Emily's dying. She'll be fine. Kids heal fast. I really needed this trip. I'll pay you back eventually. I froze. I read the text twice, my pulse thundering in my ears. Eventually? Rachel thought she could just take my daughter's future and brush it off like a late credit card payment. She had no idea what was coming. Rachel had made one mistake. She thought she could get away with it. She thought the worst thing that would happen was me being mad at her. I was about to show her what real consequences looked like. I sat down at my desk, my hands still shaking with rage, and started gathering everything. Screenshots of my bank transactions, timestamps of every withdrawal, her Instagram posts, proving exactly where the money went, her text admitting she took it. Then I called the bank again. I need to report fraudulent transactions. The rep pulled up my file. Sir, because these transfers were made from a recognized device, this may be considered an authorized transfer rather than fraud. I didn't authorize anything, I snapped. That money was for my daughter's surgery. I understand, the rep said. But if someone had access to your devices, it's classified as a civil dispute. I wanted to punch something. Fine. If the bank wouldn't help, I'd take it to the police. I dialed the non-emergency line and explained everything. Do you have proof that she took the money? The officer asked. Bank statements, screenshots, a text where she literally admits to it. That's good, the officer said. But since she had access to your devices, this might need to go through small claims court rather than criminal charges. That word again. Civil. Like she hadn't just stolen my daughter's future. I hung up and clenched my fists. Rachel thought this was over. It was just getting started. Rachel wasn't stopping. If anything, she was doubling down. Her Instagram stories kept rolling in. Designer shopping bags, expensive meals, luxury hotels. Every post felt like a punch to the gut. But the worst one, Lisa, sent me another screenshot. Rachel, standing inside a historic cathedral in Paris, holding a donation envelope. Her caption, feeling blessed, giving back when you can is so important. Gratitude. Helping others. I nearly threw my phone across the room. She stole from my daughter's surgery fund and then had the audacity to pose as some generous, kind-hearted person? I called Lisa immediately. "We need to end this," I said, barely keeping my voice steady. "Agreed," she said. "And I have an idea." Rachel was planning a Parisian-themed dinner party when she got back. She had invited several family members, including Lisa. "She actually invited me," Lisa said, incredulous, like nothing happened. Like she didn't just steal from her own family. "Perfect," I said. "You're going." Lisa let out a low laugh. "I was hoping you'd say that." We had one goal: get her to admit it, on camera. Rachel had spent weeks treating this like a joke. If we could catch her bragging about it, she'd be finished. She thought she was untouchable. She had no idea her downfall was about to be broadcast to everyone. Rachel's party was exactly what I expected. Over the top, obnoxious, and full of people eager to hear about her luxury getaway. Lisa walked in, phone out in the open, recording like everyone else. Rachel was glowing, walking around like she was a celebrity. "Paris is just different," she gushed. "Once you've been, you just get it, you know?" She started showing off her purchases, a Chanel bag which she called an investment in my personal brand, a custom perfume she claimed matched her energy. Lisa told me later that she wanted to scream, but she kept quiet. She just kept filming. Then Rachel made her fatal mistake. She clicked on a video. Rachel, sitting at a cafe in Paris, raising her glass to the camera. "Shout out to my cousin Mark's savings account for making this trip possible." "Sorry, not sorry." Laughter erupted in the background. Lisa didn't even have to do anything. The room went dead silent. Rachel's face dropped, had just realized what she had done. Lisa immediately sent me the video. A second later, Rachel's head snapped toward her. "Delete that." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "Why? It was funny, right? Isn't that what you said?" Rachel's face turned bright red. "Lisa, I swear to God," Lisa turned to the stunned party guests. "She thinks it's funny. She stole my nephew's surgery money, and she's out here laughing about it." Rachel lunged for Lisa's phone. Lisa stepped back, holding it up. "Try it. I've already sent it to Mark." Rachel froze. Her guests were whispering now, some pulling out their own phones, probably looking up the rumors. Rachel realized she had lost control of the room. "You're ruining my party," she shrieked. Lisa just shook her head. "No, Rachel, you ruined your own life." Then she walked out. Rachel had just handed me the evidence I needed. It was time to take her down. Rachel had no idea what was coming. She had spent weeks parading around like she was untouchable, blowing through Emily's surgery money, and laughing about it. She thought the worst thing that would happen was me being mad at her. She was about to learn what real consequences looked like. Lisa had sent me the entire video from the party. Rachel toasting to my savings account, joking about how she got a free trip to Paris at my expense. I sat down at my laptop and got to work. I drafted an email to her new employer. "To whom it may concern," I began, keeping it professional. "I understand that Ms. Rachel Adams has recently been offered a position within your company. I wanted to bring something to your attention that I believe is relevant to her employment, particularly in a role involving financial responsibility." I attached the video, along with screenshots of her Instagram posts and bank transactions, showing the money stolen. The woman in this video is the same person who transferred $85,000 from my account under false pretenses, spending it on luxury vacations and designer shopping. If you would like further documentation, I'd be happy to provide it. No threats, no emotion, just facts. I hit send. And then I waited. Rachel found out the next day. She showed up at my house pounding on my door like a lunatic. "You ruined my life," she screamed. I raised an eyebrow. "Oh? How'd I do that?" "You sent that video to my job." "You sent it to yourself, Rachel. I said calmly. All I did was share it. Less than an hour later, Lisa texted me. She lost the job. Officially, they revoked her offer within hours. Rachel had burned her last bridge, and she still had no idea how much worse it was about to get. Rachel's world was crumbling, and for the first time, she couldn't spin her way out of it. The moment her job offer was rescinded, her parents, finally, saw her for what she really was. No more excuses, no more, she's just going through a rough patch. They were done. Lisa called me the next morning. You won't believe this, she said. Her parents are making her sell everything. Everything? I asked. Everything, Lisa confirmed. Her designer bags, her shoes, the fancy clothes she bought. In Paris. Her mom is listing them online as we speak. Rachel had spent months living like a celebrity, and now she was about to learn what rock bottom felt like. I didn't have to lift a finger. Her own parents were handling it. By the end of the week, Rachel's luxury items were being sold one by one. But the real turning point came at a family dinner, at our grandparents' house. Rachel showed up, still trying to play the victim. She sat at the table, arms crossed, pouting like a child. I can't believe how everyone's treating me, she muttered, like I'm some kind of criminal. I scoffed. You stole $85,000, Rachel. What exactly do you want people to do? She rolled her eyes. I said I'd pay it back. I didn't think it would turn into this whole legal thing. And then, our grandfather, the quietest man in the room, spoke up. You spent a small fortune on handbags while Emily can barely run without getting winded, he said, his voice cold. The room went silent. Rachel's face drained of color. Grandpa had never, ever taken sides in family drama. But now, he was disgusted. Shame on you, Rachel, he said. Rachel's lips trembled, her fingers clenching her napkin. She looked around the table, searching for someone, anyone, to defend her. But no one spoke. For the first time, Rachel had no allies left. Rachel had spent months living in luxury, acting like nothing could touch her. But now, she had nothing. Her bank account was empty. Her designer clothes were gone, sold off by her own parents to pay back what she stole. Her friends had distanced themselves, too embarrassed to be associated with her. And worst of all, her reputation was destroyed. After the family dinner, Rachel's parents followed through with everything they promised. They took control of her finances, cut off her credit cards, and forced her to sell anything she had left of value. At first, Rachel tried to fight it. You can't just take my stuff, she screamed when her mom started listing her designer handbags online. Her mom barely looked at her. They were bought with stolen money. They were never yours to begin with. Rachel whined, stomped, threw tantrums, but no one cared. Her dad set up a direct repayment plan with my lawyer. Every month, a portion of Rachel's earnings, if she ever got a job, would go straight to me. Rachel, of course, hated it, but what could she do? The luxury was gone. No more expensive dinners, no more shopping sprees, no more vacations. She was back to square one, but this time, no one felt sorry for her. Even Rachel's friends started backing away. At first, she tried to keep up appearances online, posting things like, "Sometimes life humbles you so you can grow," or "Starting over isn't failure. It's a new opportunity." But people weren't buying it anymore. Her comment section? "Weren't you the girl who stole from a disabled kid? So now you're acting like the victim. Wild. Maybe humbling yourself should have started before you drained your cousin's bank account." Rachel tried deleting the comments, but they kept coming. And soon, her follower count plummeted. Her name was now linked to one thing and one thing only: stealing from her own family. She couldn't escape it. But the real icing on the cake? Rachel tried to get another job. She had burned through the last of her savings. The money her parents had given her was gone, and she needed an income. But every time she applied, her name popped up in search results. The video from her Paris trip, confession was still floating around. Employers Googled her, saw her bragging about stealing from a disabled child, and rejected her immediately. Lisa sent me another text, laughing. She tried to get a job at a bank. A bank, Mark? Can you believe? That? What happened? I asked. They ran a background check, saw her social media history, and told her they decided to move forward with another candidate. I let out a low whistle. Rachel had stolen because she thought she'd never get caught. But now, her entire future was ruined. Not because of me, but because of her own arrogance. She tried one last stunt, of course. She messaged Lisa, pretending to be remorseful. I just want to apologize. I know I made mistakes, and I hope one day we can move past this as a family. Lisa didn't respond. A few days later, she sent me another text. Guess who's back to blaming us? She attached another Rachel meltdown post. Family should forgive. I guess some people just enjoy holding grudges. It's sad when people care more about revenge than about family bonds. I've been abandoned, but that's okay. I'll rebuild, Lisa texted me again. She still thinks she's the victim. Unbelievable. Let her, I replied. Rachel could spend the rest of her life playing the victim. But it didn't matter. Because the truth, nobody was listening anymore. The morning of Emily's surgery, I barely slept. Not because I was worried. I trusted the doctors. Not because I was still thinking about Rachel. She wasn't worth my time anymore. It was because, after everything, after all the lies, the betrayal, the stolen money, the fights, we had finally made it. I walked into Emily's room to find her already awake, sitting on her bed, clutching her favorite stuffed animal. She looked up at me and grinned. "Dad, today's the day," she said, bouncing slightly. I smiled, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Yeah, kiddo, today's the day." She didn't know everything that had happened. She didn't know about the nights I spent fighting banks, lawyers, and police reports. She didn't know about Rachel's vacation, the shopping sprees, the arrogance. She didn't know that for a while, I thought this day might never come. All she knew? That she was finally getting the chance to run. The drive to the hospital was quiet. Emily stared out the window, humming to herself. Halfway there, she suddenly turned to me. "When I can run, Dad," she said softly, "I'm going to run so fast that all the bad stuff can't catch me." I had to blink a few times to stop myself from breaking down. "That's a good plan," I said, squeezing her hand. She grinned. "I think so too." The surgery took 5 hours. I spent the whole time pacing the waiting room, running through every worst-case scenario in my head. Lisa sat next to me, scrolling through her phone. "Relax," she muttered. "You're going to wear a hole in the floor." "Don't. Tell me to relax while my kid is on an operating table," I snapped. She raised her hands. "Fair enough." We waited, and waited, and waited. Until finally, the doctor walked in. "Everything went perfectly," he said with a reassuring smile. "She's going to be just fine." I exhaled a breath I didn't realize I was holding. The weight on my chest, the stress of the last few months, it all disappeared in an instant. Emily was going to be okay. Rachel had spent months pretending she was untouchable. She thought she could steal from a disabled child and walk away without consequences. She thought that if she played the victim hard enough, people would eventually forgive and forget. She was wrong. A week after Emily's surgery, a package arrived at my door. Inside was an envelope with $2,000 in cash and a handwritten note. "Mark and Emily, this is all I have left. I sold my laptop and a few other things. I know it's not enough. I know sorry isn't enough. But it's all I have right now. Rachel, I read it twice. Then I set it down." Lisa, who had stopped by for coffee, picked up the letter and scanned it. "Well, that's new," she muttered. "Yeah," I said. "Do you believe her?" she asked. I thought about it for a moment. Rachel had spent her entire life lying, manipulating and blaming everyone else for her problems. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry for what it cost her. "No," I said finally. "But that's not my problem anymore." Lisa smirked. "Good answer." I took the money and added it to Emily's recovery fund. She would need physical therapy after the surgery. Every bit helped. Rachel could keep screaming into the void about how unfair life was. I had more important things to focus on. The next morning, Emily and I went to the park. She was stronger now, walking with more confidence. She still had some healing to do, but for the first time she was on her way to a normal life. She looked up at me suddenly, grinning ear to ear. "Dad, watch this." Before I could say anything, she took off running. Not walking, not limping, but actually running across the grass. I froze, watching her feet hit the ground, one after the other, faster than I had ever seen her move before. She wasn't out of breath. She wasn't struggling. She was just running. When she reached the other side of the field, she turned and threw her arms in the air. "I did it!" she yelled. "I can run now." I felt my throat tighten. "Yeah, sweetheart," I said, my voice thick. "You can." She ran back to me, laughing the whole way. "See, Dad? I told you. I told you I'd run so fast the bad stuff couldn't catch me." I knelt down and pulled her into a hug, blinking back the tears in my eyes. "You did, kid," I whispered. "And you were right. Rachel had spent months trying to destroy me, manipulate me, gaslight me into believing I was the bad guy. But in the end, she lost, and Emily won. Trust is earned, not given blindly, even with family. The harsh truth is that some people will take advantage of your kindness, believing that love and loyalty mean no consequences for their actions. But standing up for yourself and protecting what matters isn't revenge, it's justice. When someone betrays you, don't waste time hoping they'll change. Take action, hold them accountable, and remember, no matter how much someone tries to drag you down, focus on what truly matters. In the end, karma will catch up with them, and you'll be the one standing tall, just like Emily, finally running free.